poisoning! The words were scrawled in bright red spray paint all across our delivery van. My hands shook as I took in the damage. My employees gathered behind me in shocked silence. Our security cameras had caught everything. 2 teenagers vandalizing our vehicle at 2 a.m., later admitting someone had paid them $200 to do it. I knew exactly who was behind this. "You're making a mistake," his voice had snarled at me just days earlier. "The meal prep market is saturated. The cooking class trend won't last. You need my connections for serious growth." That was Greg, my former business partner who'd walked out when things got tough, only to come crawling back when he saw what I'd built without him. "I want back in," he demanded, as if abandoning me and 12 employees had been nothing more than a strategic move. Now he was actively trying to destroy everything I'd worked to save. My phone buzzed with a text from Maria, my pastry chef. "Channel 7 is here asking about tax problems." But we didn't have any tax problems. We had enemies. This wasn't just business anymore. This was war, and I wasn't going to lose. I still remember the day Greg walked out of Savory Celebrations like it was yesterday, even though it happened 3 months before that incident. Rain pounded against the windows of our commercial kitchen as he dropped the bomb on me and our staff of 12. "This business is a sinking ship, and I'm not going down with it," he announced, his $800 Cole Haan shoes squeaking dramatically on our tile floor. He yanked his designer blazer from the coat rack, knocking it over with a crash that made everyone jump. "Catering was your dream anyway, Melissa. Maybe you can figure out how to save it." Our employees stood frozen between prep stations, knives and whisks suspended mid-air. I felt my cheeks burn with humiliation as Greg tossed his company keycard onto the stainless steel counter with a theatrical clatter. Pausing at the door, he said, "You have exactly 3 weeks of operating capital left." His voice cut through the silence like one of our imported Japanese knives. "Good luck." Then he was gone, peeling out of the parking lot in his Tesla, leaving skid marks on the wet asphalt while I stood surrounded by confused staff members looking to me for answers I didn't have. "Is it true, Melissa?" asked Maria, our pastry chef of 5 years. Her hands trembled as she clutched her apron. "Are we closing? I just signed a lease." Jackson, our newest chef, looked pale. "I turned down 2 other jobs to come here." I looked around at the faces of people who depended on Savory Celebrations for their livelihoods, people with families and bills and dreams of their own. In that moment, something inside me snapped. "No," I said, my voice stronger than I expected. I slammed my palm on the counter. "We're not closing. We're going to turn things around, and we're going to do it our way." I had no idea how I'd make good on that promise, but I refused to let Greg's exit become our ending. After everyone left that evening, I stayed alone in the darkened kitchen, the silence crushing down on me like a physical weight. The only light came from my laptop screen, casting harsh shadows across my face as I stared at the spreadsheets, my vision blurring with tears I refused to let fall. The numbers weren't just bad, they were catastrophic. We had exactly $43,762 in the business account, outstanding invoices of $17,500 that clients might never pay, and monthly expenses towering at over $65,000 including payroll. Each figure on the screen felt like another nail in our coffin. Worse yet, our bank loan had a covenant requiring minimum revenue levels we hadn't hit for 2 consecutive quarters. The bank could call in the full $187,000 balance within 30 days. I slammed the laptop shut and buried my face in my hands, a strangled sob finally escaping my throat. "What have I done?" I whispered to the empty room. "I promised them we'd survive. I promised them their jobs were safe. 12 families, 12 livelihoods, all depending on me." My chest physically ached as I tried to breathe through the panic. I'd never felt so alone, so utterly defeated. Greg had abandoned us, and now I was going to fail everyone who had trusted me to lead them. I stood on shaky legs and wandered through our empty prep kitchen, the darkness broken only by the faint emergency lights. My fingers trailed along the equipment we'd purchased together over the years, each item holding memories now tainted by abandonment. The commercial mixers I'd insisted on because they made the perfect aioli. The imported Japanese knives Greg had called an unnecessary expense. The custom refrigeration system that had cost more than my first car. I paused at the center island, gripping the cold stainless steel until my knuckles turned white. A tear splashed onto the surface, then another. "I can't do this," I whispered, my voice breaking. I don't know how to save us. And then, as I stood there at what felt like the absolute bottom, something shifted inside me. A flicker of defiance ignited in my chest, small at first, then growing stronger with each heartbeat. Who was Greg to tell me what we could or couldn't accomplish? Who was he to walk away and leave us all to drown? My spine straightened as I wiped away the tears with the back of my hand. I turned and stared at the kitchen around me, not as a failed business, but now as my domain. That's when it hit me like a thunderbolt. Greg had always shot down my ideas, hadn't he? Always dismissed them with that condescending smile. The farm-to-table menu expansion? Far too expensive, he declared. The cooking class side business? Not our core area, a waste of time, he'd sneered. The meal prep subscription service? The logistics would be impossible to manage, he'd laughed. But what if he'd been wrong? What if he'd been wrong about everything? A surge of electric energy coursed through me, replacing despair with fierce determination. I marched back to my laptop, flipped it open, and pulled out a fresh notepad. Watch me, I said to the empty kitchen, my voice steady and strong for the first time in weeks. Just watch me save this business without you, Greg. Then I started writing, ideas flowing faster than I could capture them. By 3 a.m., fueled by nothing but black coffee and desperation, I had a plan. It was risky, required immediate action, and flew in the face of everything Greg had ever taught me about business. It might just work. The next morning, I called an all-staff meeting. Dark circles hung beneath my eyes, but adrenaline coursed through my veins. Here's the situation, I said, not sugarcoating anything. We're in serious trouble financially. The bank could call our loan in 30 days. Greg's departure leaves us without his investment connections, but it also frees us to try new approaches. I need everyone's help, and I need your trust. I laid out my plan, watching their expressions shift from concern to cautious optimism. Instead of scrambling to replace our lost corporate clients with similar ones, we would diversify. We'd launch a meal prep subscription service targeting busy professionals. We'd offer cooking classes on weeknights when our kitchen was sitting empty. And we'd revamp our catering menu with a farm-to-table focus, sourcing ingredients from local suppliers who might be willing to partner with us. This means everyone will need to wear multiple hats for a while, I admitted, and I can't guarantee it will work. If anyone wants to look for another job, I understand completely. The silence that followed was excruciating. I held my breath, watching faces, reading reactions. No one moved. I'm in, said Maria, breaking the silence. She stepped forward, chin raised. The meal prep desserts could be simplified versions of our catering classics. I know 3 farmers who might work with us, Jackson added. My cousin runs a CSA. One by one, every staff member committed to trying. We had 3 weeks to reinvent ourselves or close our doors forever. The next 21 days were the most exhausting of my life. I slept on a cot in my office more often than I slept in my own bed. I lost 12 pounds, surviving mostly on espresso and protein bars snagged between meetings. We redesigned our website, created subscription plans, and developed a streamlined menu that could work for both individual meals and large events. I personally called every client who had left us in the past year, swallowing my pride to ask what had gone wrong. The answers were illuminating and uniformly centered on Greg. He made us feel like we were bothering him, said the HR director at Westfield Insurance, once our biggest corporate client. He talked down to my team, explained the event planner at Brighton Hotels. Honestly, he was kind of a jerk, said the director of Cedar Heights Elementary, more bluntly. I took notes on every call, apologized sincerely, and then asked if they'd be willing to give us another chance under new management. To my surprise, many said yes, though most wanted smaller initial orders before committing to anything substantial. You were always great to work with, Melissa, one client told me. We missed your energy and those raspberry mascarpone tartlets. By the end of week 2, we had launched the meal prep service with a modest 47 subscribers, most friends, family members, and former clients giving us a chance. Our first cooking class sold out, with 24 people paying $75 each to learn how to make restaurant-quality pasta at home. It wasn't enough to save us yet, but it was something. The real breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Remember that school district contract we'd lost? After my apology call, the coordinator had agreed to meet with me to discuss catering their end-of-year staff event, a much smaller commitment than their previous standing order. I arrived at the meeting clutching my presentation folder, exhausted but determined. I'd been up since 4 a.m., perfecting the proposal and rehearsing my pitch in the mirror. I know budgets are tight in education, I said, sliding a folder across the table. So I've created a farm-to-table menu that showcases local producers but still meets your price point. Plus, we'd like to offer a free cooking demonstration for your students as part of our commitment to community education. Her eyebrows rose as she reviewed the proposal. This is creative. How can you make the numbers work at this price? I explained our new relationships with local farmers, who were giving us preferential pricing in exchange for promotion. She seemed impressed, but still hesitant. Why the sudden change in approach? She asked, tapping her pen against the table. I took a deep breath. Honestly, my business partner left, and I'm running things differently now. The way he treated you and your colleagues was unacceptable, and I apologize for not stepping in sooner. She studied me for a long moment, her expression unreadable. My heart hammered in my chest. This contract could make or break us. Okay, Melissa, she finally said, extending her hand. We'll try one event, but I need to see the same care and quality you're promising here. That small job led to 3 more bookings within the school district. Teachers who attended the end-of-year event hired us for personal celebrations. Parents asked about our meal prep service. One small opportunity created dozens more. By the end of our 3-week deadline, we weren't just surviving, we were growing. Revenue was up 12% compared to the previous month. Our meal prep subscription had expanded to 136 members. Cooking classes were booked solid 2 weeks in advance. The bank agreed to waive our covenant violation after seeing our new growth trajectory. We were going to make it. And I hadn't heard a word from Greg until exactly 2 months after he walked out. I was in the middle of teaching a summer entertaining cooking class when I saw him peer through the glass door of our kitchen. The knife in my hand froze mid-slice through a blood orange, juice spilling across the cutting board. My stomach lurched violently. Greg, after 61 days of silence, after walking out, after nearly destroying everything, he had the audacity to just show up? My hand trembled so badly I had to put the knife down before I cut myself. A hot wave of rage crashed through my body, making my ears ring and my vision blur at the edges. 2 months of sleepless nights, stress-induced weight loss, and constant fear of failure, all because of him. And now he was just standing there in his expensive clothes with that smug expression. "Melissa, are you okay?" one of the students asked, noticing my sudden stillness. I forced a smile, gripping the edge of the counter until my knuckles turned white. "Just fine. Let me show you that technique again." Somehow, I made it through the remaining 20 minutes of class, though I couldn't tell you what I said or demonstrated. Every cell in my body was aware of him watching through that glass, like a predator sizing up prey. My mind raced with possibilities. Was he here to gloat, to threaten, to try to take credit now that we were succeeding? When the last participant left, I slammed the classroom door shut with more force than necessary. Greg sauntered in, wearing his most practiced smile. He'd gotten a new haircut, and his tailored suit probably cost more than our monthly utility bill. "This is new," he said, gesturing toward the teaching kitchen setup we'd installed. "Looks like you've been busy." I gripped a dish towel to keep my hands from shaking, not from fear, but from the effort it took not to scream in his face. "What the hell are you doing here, Greg?" He blinked, clearly taken aback by my tone. "Good! No, actually, don't answer that." I cut him off, my voice tight. "Do you have any idea what we've been through, the hours I've worked? The panic attacks at 3 a.m. wondering if 12 people were going to lose their jobs because of you?" The words spilled out, months of bottled fury finally finding release. He had the nerve to look wounded. "Melissa, I think you're overreacting a bit." "Overreacting?" I laughed, a harsh sound that didn't resemble humor. "You abandoned us. You told everyone in town we were failing. I had to refinance my house to make payroll that first month." He glanced around at our recently renovated space, the fresh paint, the new demonstration island, the professional lighting we'd installed for filming online classes. "I've been hearing things," he said, running his fingers along the quartz countertop as if he had any right to touch what we'd built without him. "Good things. Apparently Savory Celebrations is the talk of the local business community." "Don't touch that," I snapped, slapping his hand away from the equipment. You gave up any right to this business when you walked out. My heart hammered against my ribs, adrenaline making my hands shake. This was the man who could have destroyed everything I'd worked for. The man whose voice had lived in my head for years, telling me my ideas would never work. And now he was standing here, invading our space like he belonged here? I'm well aware we're doing well, I said, deliberately turning my back to him and aggressively wiping down a spotless counter. No thanks to you. So I see. He leaned against the counter, unfazed by my hostility. That's actually why I'm here. I've been thinking about our partnership. The knife I was washing clattered into the sink. I whirled around, incredulous. Partnership? Are you delusional? You walked out, remember? Tossed your key on the counter? Told everyone we were going under? A strategic retreat, he said smoothly, as if rehearsed. Sometimes a business needs to hit rock bottom before it can truly innovate. And look what happened. You found your footing. My jaw clenched so hard I thought my teeth might crack. A cold dread spread through me alongside the anger. I knew Greg. I knew how calculating he could be, how he held grudges, how he never accepted defeat. If he couldn't have what he wanted, he would try to destroy it. And right now, he wanted back into Savory Celebrations. What do you want, Greg? I asked, fighting to keep my voice steady. I want back in, he said simply, spreading his hands. I've got capital to invest. We could expand this cooking class concept, maybe open a second location. My family's interested too. They've got connections all over the Northeast. For a terrifying second, that old insecurity crept in. That sense that I needed Greg's business expertise, his connections, his legitimacy. The voice that had always whispered I wasn't enough on my own. Then I thought of the staff who had stood by me, the clients who specifically requested I handle their accounts, the $162,750 in our business account that we'd earned without a penny from him. No, I said, dropping the pretense of calm as I threw the towel down. That's not going to happen. Not now. Not ever. His smile flickered. Come on, Melissa. You're doing great with the creative side, but you need me for the business growth. You know that. Actually, I don't, I said, surprised by my own confidence. Our customer retention rate is up 46%. Revenue has increased every week for the past 8 weeks. And we just signed a contract with Westfield Insurance that's double what we had before, after they specifically requested that you not be involved. His face darkened. I built half of this business. And then you abandoned it, I reminded him, my voice rising. You left 12 people without a plan, took your contact list and told everyone in town we were failing. I made a mistake, he admitted, his tone softening. He stepped closer, lowering his voice. But we were good together once. The business-savvy guy and the talented chef, we complemented each other. I shook my head. That narrative only worked because I believed it. Turns out I know more about business than you gave me credit for. He straightened, charm evaporating like water on a hot skillet. You're making a mistake. The meal prep market is saturated. The cooking class trend won't last. You need my connections for serious growth. Thank you for your input, I said, walking toward the door. But we're doing fine without you. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. The next week, a health inspector showed up unannounced, citing an anonymous complaint about our food storage practices. We passed with flying colors, thanks to the rigorous systems I'd implemented. 3 days later, a reporter from the local business journal called, asking about rumors that we were behind on our taxes. We weren't. Then came the vandalized delivery van. Food poisoning spray-painted across the side in letters so large you could read them from half a block away. Our security cameras caught the perpetrators, 2 teenagers who, when confronted by police, admitted someone had paid them $200 to do it. I knew exactly who was behind it all, but the final straw came when our suppliers started calling to verify changes to our orders. Someone had been contacting them, claiming to represent Savory Celebrations, and canceling our standing orders, right before our biggest weekend of the summer. We had a $35,000 wedding and 3 corporate events that would be impossible to execute without those ingredients. I was furious. This wasn't just an attack on me, it threatened everyone who worked for us. I called an emergency staff meeting. I need to be transparent with you, I said, my voice shaking with barely controlled anger. Greg is trying to sabotage us. He's approached several people offering money to provide damaging information about our business. The room erupted in angry murmurs. Why would he do that? Asked Jackson, our newest chef. If you turned him down, why not just start something else? Because this isn't about business, Maria answered before I could. She slammed her palm on the table. It's about ego. He can't stand that we're succeeding without him. I nodded. I think you're right, and I'm not going to let him hurt what we've built. That night, I made 2 important calls. The first was to my attorney, who helped me document every incident of suspected sabotage. The second was to Daniel Rivera, a former client who now worked as an editor at the business journal where the tax problem rumor had originated. I need your advice, I told him, explaining the situation. I don't want to start a public war, but I need this to stop. Daniel was quiet for a moment. Actually, I think there's another approach. How would you feel about telling your story? Small business owner faces sabotage, overcomes challenges, reinvents local catering scene. It's the kind of inspirational piece our readers love. I hesitated. Wouldn't that just antagonize him more? Maybe, Daniel admitted, but it would also make any future attacks look exactly like what they are, the desperate actions of someone who couldn't cut it when things got tough. I thought about it overnight, then agreed. The resulting feature appeared 2 weeks later. The Sweet Taste of Success: How Melissa Summers Transformed Savory Celebrations. The article detailed our business turnaround without directly accusing Greg of sabotage, though his abrupt departure was noted as the catalyst for our reinvention. The phone started ringing the morning the article was published, and it didn't stop for days. New clients, media requests, even a local business award nomination. Our website traffic increased by 347% overnight. Screenshots of the article circulated on local social media with comments like, "This is the inspiration I needed today," and "Woman shows business bro how it's done." A local TV station wanted to feature us on their Community Heroes segment. A well-known podcast about entrepreneurship invited me to be a guest. The Chamber of Commerce asked if I would speak at their next luncheon. And then, predictably, a cease and desist letter from Greg's attorney, claiming defamation and demanding a retraction. I forwarded it to my lawyer, along with our security footage, supplier communications, and documentation of every suspicious incident since Greg had returned. She responded with a terse email, "Leave this to me." 2 days later, I received another email, this one from Greg directly. "We need to talk," it read, "in person, tomorrow." Against my attorney's advice, I agreed to meet him at a coffee shop downtown. I arrived early, chose a table in the back corner, and ordered a cappuccino to steady my nerves. I wore my most professional outfit, a structured blazer over a simple black dress armor for the confrontation to come. When Greg walked in, he looked different, tired, his usual confidence deflated. The designer suit was gone, replaced by a rumpled button-down that might have been slept in. "Your lawyer is very thorough," he said, sitting down without ordering anything. "I didn't expect you to have so much evidence." "I didn't expect to need it," I replied, meeting his gaze steadily. "What happened to you, Greg? We were partners, friends even." He stared into the distance for a moment. "I panicked," he finally admitted. "When things started going south with those big clients, I saw all my family's investments circling the drain. My father was already questioning my business acumen. I couldn't face telling him I'd failed. So you left me to deal with it instead." He had the grace to look ashamed. "I told myself you'd just close up shop, make a clean break. When I heard you were not just surviving, but thriving." He shrugged. "It made me look even worse." "That doesn't excuse the sabotage," I said firmly, leaning forward. "You could have destroyed livelihoods. People trust me with their careers, Greg." "No, it doesn't," he admitted, finally meeting my eyes. "For what it's worth, I'm sorry. And my lawyer tells me I should offer to make amends, financially." He pulled out a checkbook from his jacket pocket. "Name your price." I studied him, seeing clearly for the first time how insecurity drove his arrogance. The prestigious MBA and family connections had always been his identity. Without them, who was he? "Put that away," I said. "Here's what's going to happen. You're going to stop the rumors, the complaints, all of it. You're going to sign a formal statement acknowledging you have no current affiliation with Savory Celebrations, and you're going to make a donation to Cedar Heights Elementary's culinary education program, anonymously." He blinked, clearly expecting a demand for money. "That's it?" "That's it," I confirmed. "We both need to move forward." He hesitated, then nodded slowly. "I can do that." As we stood to leave, he paused. The meal prep service was your idea from the beginning, wasn't it? 3 years ago? I nodded. You said it would never work. I was wrong about a lot of things, he said quietly, then walked away. 3 weeks later, I received a card from Cedar Heights, thanking Savory Celebrations for connecting them with an anonymous donor who had funded a fully equipped teaching kitchen for their students. Enclosed was a photo of excited kids in chef's hats, and a note from the coordinator. Your community commitment continues to impress us. The 3-year catering contract is yours if you still want it. It was worth $278,000. That was 6 months ago. Today, Savory Celebrations employs 23 people, nearly double our original staff. Our meal prep subscription service now reaches over 500 customers weekly. We've expanded to 3 cooking class locations across the metro area, and last month we signed our largest corporate client yet, a tech company that found us through that Business Journal article. Last week we hit a milestone, $1 million in revenue for the quarter. As for Greg, I hear he moved to Chicago to work for his father's investment firm. Sometimes I wonder if he learned anything from our experience. I certainly did. I learned that running a successful business isn't about prestigious degrees or family connections. It's about understanding people, solving problems creatively, and having the courage to try new approaches when old ones fail. I learned that I knew more than I gave myself credit for, that years of observing, listening, and adapting had taught me plenty about business strategy, even without formal training. But mostly, I learned to trust my instincts. The ideas Greg had dismissed as impractical were exactly what saved us. My approach to client relationships, warmer, more collaborative, more service-oriented than his, turned out to be our greatest competitive advantage. Yesterday, I stood on stage at the Regional Business Awards, accepting the Entrepreneur of the Year award. From the podium, I could see hundreds of faces looking up at me with admiration, including, surprisingly, Greg's. He had slipped into the back of the ballroom, watching silently as my success was publicly celebrated. Our eyes met briefly across the crowded room. He gave a small nod, part acknowledgement, part surrender, before turning to leave. Later that evening, I signed the papers to purchase the building we've been leasing for 7 years. The bank manager who approved our loan was the mother of one of our cooking class regulars. As she handed me the finalized documents, she smiled. I've been watching what you've built, she said. It's impressive. Thank you, I replied, feeling the weight of the moment. It wasn't always easy, but it was worth it. When I returned to the kitchen, the staff had arranged a surprise celebration. Maria had created a special cake decorated with a tiny fondant building. As I looked around at the team that had stood by me during our darkest days, I felt a surge of pride so intense it brought tears to my eyes. To Savory Celebrations, I said, raising a glass of champagne, and to all of you who made this possible. And to you, boss, Maria added with a grin, the woman who saved us all. The woman who saved us all. Not bad for someone who once believed she needed someone else to understand business. Not bad at all.